Hey there, Daily Gardeners. Really quick, Jennifer here. I just wanted to reach out and let you know about Podchaser. And this year, during the month of April, just like last April, they have launched their Reviews for Good campaign. And this is really important because every time you leave a review on Podchaser and then I reply to it, they will donate 25 cents for your review and then 25 cents for my reply to World Central Kitchen. That is the charity that they are donating to. And it is all going to help the Chefs for Ukraine efforts. It's an initiative aimed at providing meals to individuals and families fleeing from Ukraine. And so far, they have served 1 million meals to those in need. And so I am very excited to be part of this cause. So what I'm asking is that you leave a review for the Daily Gardener. Even if you've already done so, even if you did it last year, it doesn't matter. They will still donate 25 cents for your review. And then I will do a reply. I will definitely take the time to do that. So I will reply to every single review if you would do me the honor of leaving a review for the show over at podchaser.com. And with your help, we will make this year the most impactful Reviews for Good yet. So write your review over at podchaser.com. Just search for the Daily Gardener. It's very easy to find there. Then click on review and leave a review. And then if you get a chance and you want to share that review, after you're done leaving it, you can share it on social media, the social media of your choice. Make sure to use the hashtag Reviews for Good if you get a chance, and let other people know that if they have a favorite podcast, they should definitely leave a review for that podcast so that we can help out World Central Kitchen. So easy to do, and so much good can come from it. Today's episode is brought to you by the Daily Gardener Friday newsletter. You can sign up for the newsletter over at thedailygardener.org. Hi there, and welcome to The Daily Gardener, a podcast about garden history and literature. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling, and today is April 5th. Today in garden history, the Lilies of the Valley Fabergé egg was presented to the Russian Tsar Nicholas II on this day, April 5th in 1898. The egg was a gift for his wife, Empress Alexandra, and today the egg is kept in the Fabergé Museum in St. Petersburg, Russia. Lily of the Valley, or Convallaria majalis, is a woodland plant that flowers in the spring with sweetly scented, delicate, bell-shaped white flowers. And it can also be invasive, so keep that in mind if you're going to plant it. You want to put it in a very controlled area with lots of concrete around it, like my mom and my grandma did back in the old days when they would plant it in the strip between the house and the driveway. Now, despite its common name, Lily of the Valley is in the asparagus family, not the lily family. In fact, it's not a lily at all. The etymology of the Latin name majalis means belonging to May. And in addition to blooming in May, Lily of the Valley is the birth flower for the month of May. And in France, Lily of the Valley Day is celebrated every May 1st. Now, in floriography, or the language of flowers, the lily of the valley represents good luck, kind of like the shamrock. Those tiny little blossoms are also a favorite for making perfume. I know Elizabeth Taylor wanted to use lily of the valley in a lot of her fragrances. It was one of her favorite flowers. And lily of the valley is also a favorite bridal flower. It was included in the wedding bouquets of Queen Victoria, Princess Astrid of Sweden, Grace Kelly, and even Kate Middleton. Lily of the valley thrives in cool growing zones. It cannot thrive in hot conditions, but it does just fine in my Minnesota garden. And today is also the birthday of Ruth Elizabeth Davis, also known as Bette Davis, the American actress. She was born on this day, April 5th in 1908. Betty's career spanned over 5 decades, and she often played tough, unsympathetic characters. And as Margot Channing in All About Eve from 1950, she famously said, "Remind me to tell you about the time I looked into the heart of an artichoke." And today is also the birthday of Anne Scott James, the English author and pioneering journalist. She was born on this day, April 5th, in 1913. In 1934, Anne started out as a secretary at Vogue before rising through the ranks to become the beauty editor. After a brilliant career in journalism, including stints at Harper's Bazaar and the Daily Mail, Anne became a garden writer. Her books included The Best Plants for Your Garden, The Pleasure Garden, Down to Earth, and Sissinghurst, The Making of a Garden. They're all wonderful books. Now, regarding Sissinghurst, Anne once wrote, "Sissinghurst is the last cottage garden made on a grand scale, but fortunately, it does not mark the end of cottage gardening." Both of Anne's children followed in her footsteps and ended up in journalism. Anne's daughter, Claire Hastings, became a garden writer, and she's also the author of Gardening Notes from a Late Bloomer, a great book. She also wrote a memoir of her mother, Anne, that was released in 2020, and it's called Hold the Front Page, The Wit and Wisdom of Anne Scott James, one of my favorite biographies. It was Anne Scott James who wrote, "However small your garden, you must provide for two of the serious gardener's necessities, a tool shed and a compost heap." And Anne also wrote, "To pick a flower is so much more satisfying than just observing it or photographing it. So in later years, I have grown in my garden as many flowers as possible for children to pick." Great advice. And today we remember Kim McDodge, the American garden founder and artist who died on this day, April 5th, back in 2011. In 1993, Kim used her inheritance to buy 2 parcels of land in the Sabin neighborhood of Portland, Oregon, near Northeast Fremont and 11th, and called it the Ariadne Garden. 2 years later, she donated the 100 by 100 foot plot to the Oregon Sustainable Agriculture Land Trust, also known as OSALT. The Ariadne Garden became a volunteer-staffed organic urban farm selling blooms like peonies, roses, yarrow, lilies, gladiola, and zinnias, as well as a diverse array of produce. Now, if you ever get a chance to stop by, you should know that Kim designed the Hopi mother and child maze at Ariadne, and it's a nod to the lore of Ariadne herself. Because, you see, in Greek mythology, Ariadne was a Cretan princess, and she's remembered for helping Theseus escape the labyrinth after slaying the Minotaur with the help of a golden thread. And then Ariadne became the wife of Dionysus. Now, the author Jan Hockman wrote a beautiful tribute to Kim, and I wanted to share a little excerpt from that with you today as we remember her. He wrote, "Before the mortal Ariadne more famously enabled Theseus to kill the Minotaur and escape the labyrinth, she was a Minoan vegetation goddess, celebrated by rituals reflecting the death and revival of the vegetation that she personified. Kim elegantly fused these 2 Ariadnes in her garden labyrinth, becoming remarkably Ariadne-like herself by showing the rest of us at least one way to kill the Minotaur of corporate agriculture and thread our way out of the labyrinth of supermarket aisles and find our way back to the amazing paths of an organic garden. Isn't that an amazing tribute? It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, Get Growing by Holl Farrell. This book came out in 2020, and the subtitle is A Family Guide to Gardening Inside and Out. And I should mention that this book is by the RHS, and it is really fantastic. The goal here with this book was to put fun into gardening with this great family guide to help you make gardening a family affair. Now, it's hard to beat RHS books because they're so well put together. And of course, they're grounded in science, the latest science, so that's always a plus. But one of the reasons why you might want to consider getting this book is if you're working with students in your garden, because this book is full of ideas and projects. And sometimes when you're thinking about the prospect of working with kids, you just need some new ideas or some different activities that you can put together to keep them engaged and keep them learning and growing and excited about working in the garden. So this book would be perfect for that. This is great for families with young kids. It is really all about trying to inspire young people, getting them growing, thus the title. Now, there's all kinds of fun experiments in this book, things like working with rain, tracking shadows, something I had not read about before. I loved that idea. Another fantastic idea that they had is having kids make their own wormery. This is a little worm farm that they can put together in a jar very easily, but it'll provide lots of entertainment and really teach them about what worms do and about how they're so vital to soil health. Now, I also had to chuckle just a little bit because they have one of my favorite activities that I've always done with kids, and that is making pesto. That's something that I did with my kids early on. I taught them how to use the food processor when we would make pesto. And to this day, they still love making pesto, and they associate that smell with being in the garden with me and with cooking during the summer and all season long, which is just such a joy. I'm so glad that I did that. In any case, this book is loaded with lots of great ideas. It's step by step. It is impeccably illustrated. It is smart, and it's just a very good current resource. It's only a couple of years old. Now, Holl Farrell, I just want to mention, also put together a book in 2013 called Planting Plans for Your Kitchen Garden. And she also did a really good book in 2015 called Plants from Pips. And that was a book that she did for the RHS as well. So anyway, experienced author, great gardener, and just passionate about getting kids excited about gardening. This book is 176 pages of ideas and inspiration and projects and experiments and so forth, all about the garden and all about getting kids involved in gardening. Get Growing. You can get a copy of Get Growing by Holl Farrell and support the show using the Amazon link in today's show notes for, wait for it, about $2. I'm not kidding. So if you were on the edge before, you shouldn't be now. Go grab your copy. Make sure you act quickly because those used copies at that price are going to go very fast. And of course, this is for a hardcover as well. So yay, amazing. All right, we end today's show with a botanic spark that celebrates the birthday of an American author named Barbara Holland, who was born on this day, April 5th, in 1933. Barbara grew up in Chevy Chase, Maryland, near Washington, D.C. She was witty and a bit of a rebel. She liked to defend vices like drinking and eating fatty food and smoking cigarettes. She was one of a kind, and she also extended her humor and her unique insight on the world of gardening. She once quipped, "One's own flowers and some of one's own vegetables make acceptable, free, self-congratulatory gifts when visiting friends, though giving zucchini or leaving it on the doorstep, ringing the bell and running is a social faux pas." And in her book, Endangered Pleasures, Barbara wrote this: "Poets and songwriters speak highly of spring as one of the great joys of life in the temperate zone. But in the real world, most of spring is disappointing. We looked forward to it too long, and the spring we had in mind in February was warmer and drier than the actual spring when it finally arrives. We'd expected it to be a whole season like winter instead of a handful of separate moments and single afternoons. Isn't that the truth?" Well, that's it for today's show. Just remember that you have a standing invitation to join the free Facebook group for listeners of the show. The next time you're over at Facebook, just search for Daily Gardener Community, where you'd search for a friend and then request to join. And if you'd like more of The Daily Gardener, you can subscribe to the newsletter over at thedailygardener.org. And don't forget that you can also show your support for the show by using the Buy Me a Coffee link over at the website or in today's show notes. This is Jennifer Ebling. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day.